Hey there! In this video we are going to show you how to play Rocio, a game where each player is a stonemason using the famous Portuguese pavement tiles to improve the squares. It can be played by 1 to 4 players in about 45 minutes by players with at least 8 years old. We will show you how to set up the game, including what is different depending on the player count. There are 4 noble cards for the mini expansion and 15 cards for the solo mode that we will set aside for now. First, the square is assembled by placing the 2 bigger pieces on opposite sides and the top pieces, which indicate how many are placed for each player count. Bottom pieces are double-sided. The green side represents an easier game mode, in opposition to the red side for a harder mode. Randomly choosing the same amount used for the top pieces, bottom pieces are placed on the square, returning the remaining to the box. All the coins and victory points are placed within all players' reach, with the exception of the only piece with 3 victory points, that is placed on top of the rightmost part of the square. All the calçada tiles are shuffled, distributed among different piles, and 2 of them are randomly drawn and placed on top and bottom left corners of the square. Both tiles starting in the square need to be different, so we can discard the last one drawn to the bottom of a pile until there are 2 different in the square. The last aspect of the general setup are the helper cards. All 40 cards are in play, not depending on the player count. After shuffling, 4 cards are randomly drawn and placed in a straight line near the square, with the remaining cards on a face-down deck at the right of the display. This area will be therefore mentioned as the market. As for the player setup, each receive an individual player board, 4 calçada tiles to fill the reserved spaces from the left to the right, and 5 helper cards, from which 2 are discarded to a common pile and 3 are kept as the initial hand. This is how the setup for 2 players looks like. Each player will be recruiting helpers and building different sections of the square. As soon as the last tile is built on the square, remaining players on that round still perform their turn and then the game ends. The player turn is divided in the following mandatory steps: recruiting and activating cards, building tiles in the square, drawing a card from the market, and resetting the tiles on the player board. Below each player board, there are 3 spaces reserved to placed cards. A player starts their turn by recruiting a card from hand and placing it on the rightmost space. If there is a card on that space already, all the cards are shifted 1 space to the left, as indicated by the arrows above the reserved spaces. Only then, the new card is placed on the rightmost space. While shifting the cards, one may be pushed away from the player board, being then sent to the common discard pile. Helper cards are double-sided. The front side has the helper illustration and their associated benefits, and the back side that always shows a coin symbol. If a player recruits a card with the front side up, there is a cost that should be paid in coins, as indicated on the top of the card. This helper will have the opportunity of scoring 3 times potential victory points, but only if the depicted pattern could be seen in the square. If a player recruits a card with the back side up, there is no cost to pay, but the helper on that card is not available for scoring. Instead, the player will benefit from the coin visible on the bottom of the card. Once played, the cards cannot be flipped on future turns to show the opposite side. After choosing and recruiting a card from hand, all the cards below the player board will have the opportunity of either scoring points or granting coins, starting with a card on the leftmost space and activating 1 card at a time. For each card with the coin side up, the player gains a coin from the general supply. For each card with the helper side up, the player gains the number of points indicated on the bottom right corner of the card as many times as the exact pattern is depicted on the square. When scoring the patterns required by helpers, the same tile can count towards the goals on multiple cards. However, it can never be scored twice by the same helper in the same turn. It is important to note that the orientation of the pattern in the square is not important, and the cost represented on the helper card is only paid when recruiting it for the first time. On each player board, there are 4 spaces reserved to place tiles. A player starts their turn with all the space completely filled, and have the possibility to build them in the square after recruiting and activating cards. It is mandatory to build at least one tile on the square, starting with the one on the leftmost space on the player board. When building, if this tile matches the type on another orthogonally adjacent tile, you can choose if you also want to build the next tile on your board in the square. Only this way, there is the opportunity to build the 4 tiles on the same turn. In addition, you can pay a coin to change places of 2 adjacent tiles as many times as you want, so they are the next in line as indicated by the arrows between the tiles. This is the path the tiles do since they enter your board until they leave it. In some spaces reserved for the tiles, there is a coin symbol, meaning that after the building phase you gain the visible amount of coins from the general supply. For building effects, all the top and bottom pieces of the square are considered walls, as well as the piece placed on the left side of the square. When building a tile, you have to make sure that it is orthogonally adjacent to 2 other pieces, either being other tiles or one of the square walls. The Rocio square piece itself does not count as a wall. Considering we are building the square from the left to the right, reaching this piece with multiple tiles means almost reaching the game end. The last aspect regarding building tiles is that it should always be built on the leftmost available space of the desired row. When a column is completed by doing so, you gain the bonus indicated below that column on the bottom piece. This bonus can either be a coin, 2 cards, or the game end victory points. In some spaces reserved for the tiles, there is a coin symbol, meaning that after the building phase you gain the visible amount of coins from the general supply. On the end of your turn, you get a card from the market to the hand limit of 3. However, the cards available for taking depend on the number of tiles built in that turn. If you build all 4 tiles, you can choose from any displayed card. From 3 tiles built, you can pick one of the 3 leftmost cards. When building 2 tiles, you can choose from the 2 first cards only. And, if you just build 1 tile, you get the first card in line on the opposite side of the face-down deck. Then, all cards in the market are shifted 1 space to the left and a new one is placed on the rightmost space. To finish the turn, remaining tiles on the player board are shifted to the left and new ones enter to fill all the 4 available spaces, always entering and being shifted in the direction indicated by the arrows. As soon as the last tile is placed on the square, the player who built it gained a 3 victory points bonus for triggering the game end. Remaining players on that turn can still recruit and activate that cards. Then, all players sum up their previously awarded victory points to discover the winner. Any remaining coins at the end of the game do not grant you any points. And that is all you need to know to be able to play Rocio. On the rulebook, you can also find tiebreakers, the Nobles mini expansion, game variants, and detailed information on the solo mode. For more information on this game, you can always go to the Board Game Geek or the official channels of the game publisher. The links are in the description below, as well as the overview details. If any rule wasn't clear, or is there anything you want to tell us regarding this video, let us know in the comments. Until then, stay connected and be safe. See you soon!